programme. So we wanted to orientate you to the bid that we made to the Health Foundation. I'm just going to say a very little bit about that before I hand over to Matt, who's going to talk you through the process. This bid was the work of a number of us. So I guess a number of people that you'll be hearing from today got together, were having conversations, and a number of other people who actually aren't presenting as part of the programme, but were absolutely key to making that happen. Some of those people came together at an event that Kate Hilton ran in London on the Psychology for Change paper. So there was a kind of group from there. Our own journey in ABCi came via a slightly different route. So I was brought into ABCi to develop a psychologically informed leadership program back in 2014. So we've been running that year-long intensive program for 6 years now. And it became increasingly apparent that a lot of the ideas that we were covering in that had real relevance to improvement and the work that my colleagues in the improvement team were doing. So those conversations started and have been ongoing for quite a long time now. So we're really excited that, having been saying for ages, what the world of improvement needs is a greater understanding of the ideas around in psychology, that here we all are ready to think together about how we can do that most effectively. So I'm going to hand over to Matt, and he's going to tell you what it is that we bid for and what we're being expected to produce, just to orientate you to the work. So Matt, over to you.
Great. Hi, everyone. So as Benna said, just so that we all know what brought us here today, and to give a bit of a background of the project and what we're hoping to get from it, I'm going to explain what the Psychology for Improvement bid was that we were awarded back in 2019, and go through just some of the background that's relevant to that. So we bid back in 2019 in the Q Exchange funding round to bring together a group of psychologists and QI professionals to try to bring some psychological background and some of the expertise that is rife throughout the health service in the UK and further abroad, and try to bring together all the disparate little pockets of knowledge into one kind of collaborative source that we could then share with everybody equally. So the things that we hope to produce by the end of this project are to create a curated body of knowledge, which is part of bringing everybody together here today. It's the first of hopefully several events to try to draw in some of the broader psychological knowledge that's out there in the health service and in other QI services and across the Q community, to draw all of that together, summarize it, and pull out the bits that we think are the most practically helpful in terms of affecting real change in the projects that we're all trying to work on in our own services, and try to create some sort of pack of resources, which sounds really vague, and at the moment it is quite a conceptual pack of resources. But again, that's one of our aims from bringing together communities like the one we've got gathered here today, is to try to think about what would be the most useful resources that we could create as a result of this coming together, that we can share amongst the community, again with an eye to affecting practical change. And we do know that what one of those resources will look like will be a series of networking events across the UK. So we're going to hold 3, and again, one of our aims here is to decide what would be useful content for those 3 networking events, where would be a useful place for those events to be held, and what those networking events are going to hopefully achieve once they go ahead. The timeline has been delayed slightly. We were hoping that they would run in sort of November, perhaps early in 2021, but yeah, with all the disruption that's happening at the moment, they'll probably be a little bit later. But sooner or later, these 3 networking events are going to materialize, and we need to get an idea of what we're going to be sharing with people. So the core team who submitted the bid are presented in front of you. There's quite a lot there. And I think what's really reflected to me about the team that we've got is there's a really good balance between QI professionals and psychology professionals and people that have a mix of experience in both. But it reflects the aims of the project, that it doesn't want to be psychologists telling QI people how to do QI, or QI people telling psychologists what they're going to do without taking on board necessarily the psychology knowledge. It's supposed to be as collaborative as it possibly can be, and a useful, the two groups usefully informing each other and learning from each other beneficially. So latterly, after the bid was awarded, 2 new members joined the group, myself and my colleague Sam, represented below. As I say, I'm the research assistant attached to the project, and Sam is the QI support manager, and we've been picking up a lot of the admin and organisational tasks associated with this. So that's the core bid team, but really the whole project is about bringing people together. So we're trying to build a community, currently a very online-centric community, by the necessity of people being so broadly distributed, but also with, again, recent events have been pushing people apart. But at the time of creating this presentation, we've got a special interest group up on the Q Community webpage. So if you're interested in what we're doing at the moment, and if you want to keep up with the events related to this project as they unfold, please do join the special interest group. It's not a group that is just about this project specifically. It's about a group where people who are interested in psychology occasionally post useful resources and share their thoughts and come together and ask questions of a generally well-informed group in this topic. So if you are interested and you have quick thumbs, you can follow this QR code, which should take you to the Q Special Interest Group. If not, we can circulate the links, and like I say, it's on the Q website, so it should be relatively easy to find. If you're not a Q member, you can still follow the group. You just can't make posts or talk to any of the members, but you can still see what we're up to on there. And finally, there's an invitation to the event that we are already at. So if you'd like to re-invite yourself, you're more than welcome to attend twice. I think that's the end of my section. I feel like I've been talking very, very quickly, so apologies if if I've kind of gone at a bit of a breakneck pace. But Ben is going to introduce our next.
Contribution. I'm now going to introduce Rachel Trask, my colleague, who's been an absolutely core part of our work in ABCi through this whole journey, to share some of the thoughts she's been developing around this, and to share the so we have the work we've been doing for a few years now, we call Sci for QI and ABCi. We're quite liking the way it makes us smile, that it's quite a natty title, but it's essentially the broader context for the work, as well as the work that we kind of want to share as part of this project as well. So I'll hand over to Rachel now.
So we're doing a lot of swapping of computers. So while Matt gets this up and running for me, so my name's Rachel Trask. I am the improvement lead within ABCi, in Aneurin Bevan University Health Board. Do I just press down when it happens? Down, okay, yeah, okay, go back. Right, I'm not ready yet. Thank you, Matt. So I suppose I'm sort of responsible, or partly responsible, for building QI capability within the health board. Not a small health board. We employ around 14,000 staff. So we're trying to get around to everyone. I suppose in terms of developing capability, one of the core components of that we all have to do is develop QI capacity. So effectively, I'm talking about training a load of people. And I suppose I've trained a load of people over the last 10 years or so, and I've been going at this quality improvement thing for around about the last 15 years or so. And I suppose when I think I'm coming at this from quite I think personal point of view, but I suspect we all are. In terms, I suspect we all are. But I've trained a load of people, and we have great feedback on our training, and people do brilliant projects. But I always come away after, feeling really invigorated with speaking to all these amazing improvers and clinicians and managers and people across our health board. And I come away often after we've run a training program with two thoughts. And I think the first thought is probably one that a lot of us share, and certainly for those of us who are training people, is, are these people really going to go out there and use these skills when it comes to everyday practice? And because we know that they're often a sole voice, or a sort of a single voice amongst a load of people who don't know what they're talking about, and that often those skills and ideas are squashed out of them through the system itself, time and pressure and what have you. And I'm sure a lot of us recognise that. The other thought, and I'm wondering if it says more about me than it says about other people, is I feel a little bit like I'm sending lambs to the slaughter. And I've tried to analyse this feeling in myself, and I've come to the conclusion that I've been doing this QI stuff for quite a long time, and actually have been a working woman for the last 30 years or so. And over those years, I've developed an extra strand of expertise, experience, I don't know. And that's the stuff that's less tangible. It's the stuff that's about, how do I influence and engage others in what they want to do? How do I support, foster creativity and innovation in others? How do I develop a resilience and smooth out some of the scars that we've all had over the years? Thinking about failure, learning from failure instead of blaming myself for the failure. How do I do that? And so I come at this quite an individual point of view, about the individual. Certainly it's about that individual, and that's kind of where I come from, feeling quite protective, I suppose, for people. And I suppose, I'm just showing you some slides, these slides. For me, so in ABCi, we've come up with a sort of framework-ish that we hang some of these psychological concepts off. And for me, psychology is an enormous science. I don't understand most of it, but I understand how important it is. But for me, it's almost my criteria that I hold in my head is, what psychological concepts will help us to forward improvement? And that doesn't necessarily mean that improvement is suddenly we've got better percentages, but it progresses it in terms of people's experience of it, and actually the pace and scale of change. And so coming back, so our framework starts with you, every person on this call, me as well. It's all about the individual. And I kind of was going to stop there, and then realized actually it's not just about the individual. I love this quote, who am I and what, if anything, can I do about it? And it really chimes with what Kate was saying. Her quote, "We know more about ourselves today, but very little of this knowledge is put into use." And I'm hoping that this psychology for improvement work that we do is about us putting this into use. So the first part of our framework is this bit about the intrapersonal, understanding ourselves, understanding our impact on others, understanding how we react, how our own resilience, all of that stuff, all of that good juicy stuff. But it's not just about the intrapersonal. Anna's been talking all about the relationships. So it's not, QI is not just about me as an individual, it's about us. It's about the relationships that we have, and that I would argue that those relationships are the predominant predictor of success in quality improvement. So this is kind of the interpersonal. It's how do we, it's about us, and it's about how we understand and how we interact, engage with others. And then actually it doesn't just stop there. Taking a little bit further, if you think about us as individuals, we do not act in a vacuum, and whilst we understand each other, really we're amongst a whole crowd of people, many of which we know, but actually a lot more that we don't know. So it's actually all about us. It's about thinking about those conversations and things that are happening beyond ourselves. So it's the extrapersonal. It's about all of us, and it's about understanding beyond ourselves. And so this is me. This is apparently me. So it's the intrapersonal is, so this is where I said we'd hang some psychological concepts off this. And this is not an exhaustive list, but this is some of the stuff that we've been talking about in ABCi probably for the last 2.5 years. Matt has done some brilliant literature reviewing work to get some of this stuff out. But these are some of the things that we might think that might affect an individual at an intrapersonal level. And then if we think about how we link with others, these are the sorts of things that might affect improvement, psychology for improvement at an interpersonal level. And then if we think about that whole crowd that's out there, the extrapersonal, these are the sorts of things that might affect everybody, actually the interpersonal and the intrapersonal relationships. So turning this into a little bit of a framework, we're sort of starting to think that we hang things off this extrapersonal level, the interpersonal level, and the intrapersonal level, and that we have to, psychology for improvement runs throughout those 3 levels. Just a minute or two about what we're doing locally, because we have been doing some stuff for the last couple of years. So we're about to carry out a piece of research. We put a research proposal in to evaluate cohorts of QI coach training, different cohorts where we would have a cohort without psychology for improvement in it, and a cohort with psychology for improvement. And the way we want to measure that is actually what's the progress with the improvement work? Does it move quicker than it would have before? But also in terms of the behaviour change of the people involved, how staff are engaged, and we're using some validated tools for this. And actually, what's the data in comparison with the NHS staff survey? And so Matt has been doing some loads of work towards that, literature reviewing and interviewing improvers to do that. And then we're doing a few extra bits and pieces around the piece. So we've been linking in with South London and Maudsley. We would have been on psychological safety training next week, but unfortunately that's got cancelled. But that's around the Fearless Organisation Scan, and we will be, once we do go attend that training, we will incorporate that into our QI training, but also into our leadership training. Also we've been asked to run a masterclass, Psychology for Improvement, in June. I suspect it might not happen. And we're linking with the University of Aberystwyth around cognitive biases training, and perhaps getting a PhD student to do some research for us in conjunction with Swansea University. That's us. I'm going to move out. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.